Joining us now with more on the topic of medical treatments for relatives of Hamas members is Zionist Union Party Knesset member and professor at Gurion University, Yossi Yonah, and Binyamin Lachkar from the Likud Central Committee. Thank you both very much for coming in today.
Thank you.
So I'll start with you, MK. What are your initial reactions to this law? Or to the overturning of this decision?
Yeah, well, as respect to the ruling, I'm saying thank God that we have an enlightened Supreme Court that makes sure that our international image is not completely tarnished, stating very clearly that the decision of the Ministry of Defense is clearly contravene international humanitarian law and democratic law. So I'm very glad that this decision by the Supreme Court, of course, was taken. Look, otherwise it would be abominable not to let these women. It is not as if they're going to receive treatment in Israeli hospitals. The only thing that was required to do that would be that they would be transferred to a hospital in East Jerusalem. And I think another thing that I would like to add, and this is a very, very important thing, you don't impose collective punishment on people, though they are first-degree relatives of Hamas members. You don't impose a collective punishment on people who have not done any wrong, not been involved in any hostile activity against Israel.
Binyamin, do you disagree? Do you first of all, do you think that this is collective punishment, and how do you think?
Of course not. This is an outrageous decision, and the Supreme Court was not supposed at all to intervene in this case. Every state has a right to decide who can enter and who can't enter. I mean, of course, they have cancer. A million of people have cancer in Africa, in Asia. We are not going to make them enter. The government had strict policy, in order to put pressure on Hamas to liberate Israeli people who are captive in Gaza and the bodies of former soldiers. And in fact, it's another example of the activism of the Supreme Court, who doesn't judge according to the law. I mean, this is not a decision based on law. This is a decision based on the whims of the judge, based on nothing. There is no law that was broken by the decision of the government. The government should not accept to implement this decision. It's outrageous, and it's just another proof that we need to reform the Supreme Court and make it more democratic. Today, the Supreme Court, there is no balance in Israel in the democratic system. We are not a democracy anymore. We are a government of judges, and we need to restore democracy, and we need to change the way the judges are elected and a few other things to restore democracy in Israel.
Well, how is this different, though, than, say, treating a terrorist after the scene of the crime in an Israeli hospital, which we often do?
Yeah, the terrorist is already inside Israel, and we have an obligation to treat any people who are wounded. This is something different. If they are not inside the Israeli territory, we have no obligation to let people who are not in the territory to enter. Every country has full sovereignty of its territory and its borders, and we don't have to let them enter.
Well, look, I mean, they are not. The request is not that they would enter Israel. Just pass through Israel.
No, Jerusalem is in Israel.
Pass through Israel. So it is not just, it's not even here. There's a request that they would even get treatment in Israeli hospital. For God's sake, some moral sensitivity. This is
Israel. This is Jerusalem. This is the capital of Israel.
This is what the Supreme Court actually decided. And as to your comment, so let me remind you that Israel has had a wonderful balance between popular democracy and liberal democracy, between the Supreme Court as the way that I see it. If anything, it reinforces our democracy. It makes it an enlightened democracy. And the way that you see matters, and the way that people belonging to this extreme right see democracy, that actually they want to cancel the authority of the court to decide according to international, by the way, agreements that Israel have signed upon. We are bound by international humanitarian law, and we should actually act accordingly. And I think that what the Supreme Court actually has done is exactly that. Again, I'm saying, thank God that we have this Supreme Court, and if anything, contrary to what you say, my friend here, Binyamin, that on the contrary, what you say, if anything, is sort of securing the moral image of Israel, the democratic image of Israel internationally. It is the Supreme Court, and we know exactly now, and this is again commenting on what you just said, that we see exactly what you want to do, the extreme right in Israel. You want to abolish the authority of the Supreme Court, and the moment that happens, we're going to be a banana republic. And this is you and I should very much concern that that would not actually materialize.
We are today a banana republic, and we want on exactly the contrary. We want to restore democracy, and we want the Supreme Court to judge according to the law. You need to read, in fact, the decision. It's based on no laws. They don't even speak about international law. I mean, you're saying international law. They didn't say international law. They didn't speak about international law. It's based on nothing, just values. I mean, why do
nothing? Values are nothing.
No,
well,
values are not.
They did quote
What
international
values?
law. Can you point to an international law that enforces Israel treatment on?
There are universal values, and maybe not exactly specifically a law of that content or another content, but hey, I mean, what is the dispute here? There are women who are facing the danger of losing their life, and the Minister of Defense is actually trying to use his authority to prevent them from receiving that. You know what? No laws.
Why can't they go to
no
Egypt?
laws. Listen, no laws.
Why not
nothing.
Egypt?
Just basic moral sensitivity, not the moral opaqueness that you actually hear expressing, in a way that really it goes against traditional Jewish value, against progressive Zionism, against the very basic ideas and values upon which this country has been established. And you're trying to destroy that. And with the kind of smugness that you're doing it, it is unbelievable. You know, it's unbelievable the ease with which you are willing to destroy the democratic and enlightened character of this state.
I am defending democracy, you're not. And enlightened, what is enlightened? People decide, it's what Aaron Barak said in the past, there is an enlightened public. What is this thing? We're in a democracy, there is no enlightened values, there are no enlightened people.
No.
There is
you came from France.
There is a will of the people.
The state of
democracy is a government of the people, for the people, by the people, and nothing else. It's not values.
No. This
it's
is
not judge who decide according to whatever they want.
Very
this
limited interpretation of democracy,
no,
my friend.
I mean, Lincoln
very limited.
was the greatest president of the United States, and I think he knew
and United
much
States,
better than what is
exactly.
democracy.
Let's talk about that. United States is a liberal democracy. United States is a liberal democracy. Yes, but it is liberal democracy in a state, in a sense that it grants the Supreme Court judicial review on legislative initiatives or laws that are being passed by the Congress or the Senate. You know it very well.
There is no problem with that.
On liberal.
So can we choose the judges like in the States?
On liberal democracy.
The Prime Minister would choose a judge?
Binyamin, on liberal democracy, actually grant the Supreme Court judicial review for laws being passed by the government. This is what we're aspiring to be.
There is no problem with that.
To which and to this you are objecting, and I'm very sorry to hear what you just said.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we couldn't come to a conclusion today, but I don't think we ever could. Knesset member Binyamin Lachkar, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Aaron.